Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Amazon Ads Raw Daily, episode number 22. And today we're going to talk about new updates from the API, and we're going to talk about CPC calculations a little bit. As I said yesterday, this week is about basics, but I also want to give you some updates, and the updates are about the API. But before we start, one thing about the episode yesterday, because I'm not sure if this was clear enough expressed for myself. When I think about different campaign types, I think about them in a way of how they're actually gonna be presented to the customers. So I think about them in the way of their actual placements. I don't care if they're called sponsored products, sponsored display, or sponsored brands. I think the names are irrelevant and might even cause some confusions on sellers because they think, oh, display, this is all, upper funnel stuff. Oh, brands, this is just for the big brands. Just think about it. Just call it sponsored ABC or whatever you want to call it. Sponsored P, B, and D. And just think about the different placements. And these placements are the essential thing you need to think about. And sponsored display is not really upper funnel in a way because it's delivering on product detail pages. That's as low funnel as it gets, similar to sponsored products. The only difference is it's on a product detail page and it's not on the SERP. So a user might have already made up their mind to make a decision. So conversion rates might not be as good. Or there's also some placements where conversion rate gets even worse if it's not at the top of the product detail page. So that said, let's talk about new stuff today. So the new releases on the API, there's two things. One thing is more technical on sponsored display API, and Amazon has announced that sponsored display campaigns will introduce a dynamic client level throttling. Throttling, I wasn't actually aware what it means, so I looked it up. It's basically a limitation to the user or the API requester from the API to limit requests. So it seems that Amazon is introducing, similar to the sponsored products V3 API, a campaign management client level throttling, which is kind of similar to sponsored product APIs. And it basically means that your data engineering teams or your data connectivity teams or your supplier where you get your data from the APIs into your data warehouses or into your data visualization tools or whatever. They need to think about this, and it's more a technical thing on how to work around these throttles and how to eventually kind of restructure API requests sent to the Amazon sponsored display API or the Amazon Ads API in that case. The other more relevant for you guys in the advertising section update is on sponsored brands campaigns. And this is interesting, as it says there is and I'm hopefully it's a new update. I couldn't find it actually on the website, but I got it from an RSS feed. And the new update says improve campaign impressions delivery using sponsored brand campaign insights API. So this is available for all regions, and it says that sponsored brand campaigns insights provide advertisers with new metrics and insights to inform sponsored brand campaign creation. And these insights are search term impression share and search term impression rank for given keywords. So they would inform you if you connect this API on your keywords, if you have low search traffic, for example, or if you have a low probability of winning an auction. So based on your campaign structure, your keywords and your bids, connected with this Insights API, or if you connect the Insights API and pull it, then this is on your keywords and your bids, giving you kind of insights and therefore also maybe recommendations of, is it a bit high enough to actually win an auction, or is it not high enough? And is there actually search volume on these keywords, and how high is your search term impression share and your search term impression rank? And this can inform your advertising decisions and eventually your bidding and how high you want to bid. And with that, we transition over to the next item, CPC and bids. So there is a thing which I was thinking about in the last weeks. There's certain things let's say each job group don't like to hear. And I give you an example. So a data analyst or data engineer, they don't like to hear, oh, there's a bug in the data, or there's wrong data, or something like that, because their job is to have the right data and so on and so forth. So they don't like to hear that. And I think for us as marketeers and performance marketeers, there's two things which we don't like to hear, or which I personally feel is hard to hear. And one thing is the term expensive CPCs. Because I personally don't think there's any expensive CPCs. CPC, in my opinion, is an output of your advertising structure on your conversion rate, your product, your price, and so on and so forth, and the auction. And there's no such thing as an expensive CPC. I believe that people tend to put expensive and not expensive, these categories, on the normal numerical scale from 0 to, I don't know, 1,000. And if the bid, or not the bid, if the CPC is close to 0, it's a cheap CPC. And if the bid is further away from 0, let's say 5, it's an expensive CPC. But if something is expensive or something is cheap, is relative to your product price. If I'm selling a product which costs $100, then $5 CPC might not be actually expensive. And if I'm selling something which costs $10 and my selling price is $10, then you could say, okay, $5 is expensive. So using the word cheap or expensive in a combination with CPC needs to come along with the relevant information of the product price. Otherwise, it's kind of it doesn't make any sense to draw the conclusion if something is expensive or cheap. And with that, let's talk about CPCs and bids a little bit. So I'm also seeing always lots of analyses from tool providers and so on and so forth. And they're always saying, oh, CPCs are rising, CPCs are rising. So everywhere on Amazon ads, CPCs are rising over the years and everything is getting more expensive. And when I hear that, I'm just thinking of, yeah, maybe that's correct if you just look at the average CPC, but you should also look at the average CPC in correlation to the average selling price of that category. So over the last years, there was lots of inflation going on in the world, and prices might have increased. And if a price of a product increases by 10%, then there is at least a chance that you are easily able to also increase your CPC by 10% and having the same output, the same profit output, if your conversion rate stays the same, and so on and so forth. So there's obviously lots of factors to be considered here. But what I want to say is, if a CPC over a year increases by 10%, this means nothing. You have to compare it to the average selling price of the category and your own products. And if that's also increased by 10%, then it's kind of natural that the CPC increases. So you could also argue that, or not argue, but then the information CPC is increasing, everything is getting more expensive, doesn't give you too much more insights, because it's just a natural evolution of prices in general. More interesting would be if CPCs are actually stable over a very long time, but we don't see that on on Amazon ads. And if CPCs are increasing heavily over the years and the average selling prices of the category stays the same on a, let's say, keyword level, then this is something you can be concerned about and you should think about and how to tackle that. Obviously, your way of tackling that is try to aim for advertising on higher conversion rate targetings and placements, and limit your exposure to low converting terms, placements, campaign types, and so on and so forth. And focus on getting more incremental revenue and incremental organic rank lifts with your campaigns, so that the money you're paying for the advertising is kind of paying off itself from the revenue you're making on other, let's call it other channels, organic sales in that case. All right. With that, I call it a day. Have a wonderful one. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.